Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yatavada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Ladita Sri Vishakanditanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Govika Kantara Kanta Namaste Tatta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrijabhanu Sute Devi Pranamayi Haripriya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaeva cha Paritanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ya Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Jaiti Jaiti Namananda Rupam Murare Viramedane Dharma Dhyana Pujadhyatam Kattamapi Sakridatam Muktinam Pranam Yat Paramamritam Ekanam Jivanam Dushamande Madhuram Madhurebhyopi Mangalebhyopi Mangalam Pavanam Pavanebhyopi Hare Nama Eva Kevalam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam Kolau Nastiva Gattaranyata. So we're reading from Jaiva Dharma from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, third chapter, entitled Naimitika Dharma is to be relinquished. So in Godrum Dvip, Prendas Babiji Maharaj at his place, he's living the devotees, and so his disciple Vaishnava Das was there, and when visiting person came, we had some inquiries, and then they asked Vaishnava Das to speak to him. So Vaishnava Das spoke to him, or spoke to all the devotees, and the devotees, they were very much impressed by Vaishnava Das' presentation. So the last paragraph, I just read that again, and then we continue. So that Brahmana, he was a Brahmana, and he was a singer also, who had asked the question, could see the profound truth of many of the topics presented in the discussion. Some doubts had arisen on certain points, but the seed of faith in Vaishnava Dharma had been significantly nourished in his heart. He folded his hands and said, you can put one low, "O great souls, I know the Vaishnava, but I am becoming a Vaishnava by continuously hearing Harinam. If you kindly instruct me, all my doubts may be dispelled." Sri Premdas Paramahamsa Babaji Maharaj said kindly, "From time to time you may associate with Sriman Vaishnav Das. He's a scholar who is learned in all the Shastras. Previously he lived in Varanasi, where he accepted sannyas after studying the Vedanta Shastras deeply. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who is the dearmost Lord of our hearts, displayed unlimited mercy and attracted him here to Sri Navadvip. Now he is fully conversant with all the truth of Vaishnava philosophy, and he has also developed profound love for Harinam." The man who had asked the question was named Sri Kalidas Lahiri. On hearing Babaji Mahashai's words, he accepted Vaishnava Das within his heart as his guru. So here also you can see an instance that although the spiritual master is there, so but the disciple was here, and so he was very scholarly, and so therefore he attracted some devotees. And so this person here, Kalidas Lahiri, so he accepted him within his heart as guru. He thought Vaishnava Das was born in a Brahmin family and he accepted the sannyas ashram. So it's fit to instruct a Brahmana. So he, as mentioned, he was a Brahmana, this Kalidas. Besides, I've witnessed his extraordinary scholarship in the Vaishnava truth. I can learn much about Vaishnava Dharma from him. So although normally when the spiritual master is present, the disciple is not supposed to accept his own disciples, unless ordered so by the spiritual master, which may be done sometimes in some rare instances, just like in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. Some of the great Vaishnavas, like Shyamananda Prabhu, so he was preaching, actually Shyamananda and Narottam Srinivasacharya, they were sent by Jiva Goswami to preach in Orissa, Manipur, Assam, Bengal. So Shyamananda, he was preaching in Bengal. And at that time, of course, it was not as easy as today to going from one place to another. There were no planes, there were no trains, there were no cars, and no mobile. Of course, everything has its advantage and disadvantage. Now we can always keep in contact with each other, but at the same time it has disadvantages also that we know. So at that time nothing was there, and so therefore Shyamananda Prabhu, he told his disciple Rasikananda, because he was also a great preacher, a great soul, and he was very effectively preaching, so he told him on one point that I'm preaching in one part and you're preaching in another part of Orissa, and we may not be able to see us so much. So you may initiate and have your own disciples. So which he did also. And even in our society, so that is very recent, so even now, so it has been seen that some of proper disciples, then their disciple, like one good example is Jaiva Maharaj. He initiated Kadamba Kanana Maharaj, and then because he was preaching very strongly, Kadamba Kanana Maharaj, so then many wanted to take initiation from him, and then Jaiva Maharaj, he agreed, and GVC also agreed. So it may be done, but generally as a matter of etiquette, and the disciple will not accept any disciples. But at the same time, it may be done. Thinking in this way, Lahiri Mahashai offered Dandava Pranam at Vaishnavadas lotus feet and said, "O great soul, kindly bestow your mercy upon me." Vaishnavadas offered Dandava Pranam to him in return and responded, "If you bestow your mercy upon me, I will be fully successful." So reciprocal humility was there. So those who are highly advanced, they will never think they are very exalted. And so the natural humility is there. But at the same time, then they will take also sometimes a position of instructing others, but always with the greatest humility, as Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada was also showing. Devotees, his disciples were coming to him and they were offering obeisances to him, and he used to say, "Das is me." I'm your servant. So the spiritual master is always ready to help the disciples, and this way he's truly a servant, and he's giving spiritual knowledge. Das, das, anudas, that is the mood of a Vaishnava. At the same time, being empowered, then he will take charge also of the disciples and guide them as much as possible, and help them so they may advance and ultimately also stand on their own feet in spiritual life. And give them sufficient instruction so they may realize that Sri Guru and Gauranga and Krishna, they are in the heart. And then one may be directly instructed by Sri Guru Gauranga in the heart also. But for that one must be purified in consciousness in order to realize that. As evening drew near, everyone returned to their respective places. Lahiri Mahashai's house was in a grove, in a secluded area of the village. In the center of the kunj was a natural awning of Madhavi Kripas on a raised platform for Tulsi Devi. There were two rooms, one on either side of the kunj. The courtyard was enclosed with a trellis of chitta plants, and its beauty was enhanced by many trees such as bale, neem, and other trees bearing fruits and flowers. The owner of that grove was Madhav Das Babaji. So bale and neem tree were there, and other trees bearing fruits and flowers. So there are trees which are considered to be auspicious and some trees which are not considered so auspicious, or bushes. Like thorny, of course some exceptions may be there. Thorny bushes or trees are mostly not so auspicious. Of course there is an exception, like the bale tree also has big thorns. But that is considered, the bale fruit is considered, or the tree considered to be auspicious, and we can make nice bale juice. And the summer very cooling. Neem tree, neem, of course there are two neem. One is the curry pata is also in the same category, which is sweet and which is used for cooking. And the neem which is bitter, but which is actually very medicinal, and both of them are considered auspicious. And mango tree with the nice mango fruit, of course, and the leaves are used for ceremonies while doing yagya, and to decorate the house for festivals. Ashok tree is there, banana tree, so these are all auspicious trees. Any fruit tree usually is considered auspicious. So at first Madhavadas Babaji had been a man of spotless virtue, but immoral association with the woman had blemished his Vaishnava character and was curtailing his practice of bhajan. He was quite impoverished and was meeting his expenses with difficulty by begging at various places and by renting out his extra room which Lahiri Mahashaya was occupying. That night Lahiri Mahashaya's sleep was broken at midnight. He had begun to contemplate the essential meaning of what Vaishnava Babaji had explained when he heard a sound outside. As he came out of his room, he saw Madhavadas Babaji standing in the courtyard and speaking with a woman. The woman disappeared as soon as she saw Lahiri Mahashaya, while Madhavadas stood motionless and embarrassed before him. Babaji, what is the matter? Asked Lahiri Mahashaya. It is my ill fate, replied Madhavadas with tears in his eyes. What more can I say? Alas, to think of what I was in the past and what I have now become. Paramahansa Babaji Mahashaya had so much faith in me, now I am ashamed to go before him. Please tell me clearly so that I can understand, Lahiri Mahashaya. Madhavadas replied, the woman you just saw was my wife when I was a householder. Shortly after I accepted the renounced life of a Babaji, she went to Shipat, Shantipur, where she built a hut and began to reside at the bank of the Ganges. After many days had passed, I happened to go to Shipat, Shantipur, and saw her there. I asked her, why did you leave your household? And she explained, family life no longer appeals to me, since I am deprived of the service of your feet. I have taken up residence to this state holy place, and I can sustain myself by begging alms. I returned to Godrum without saying another word to her. After some time, she also came to Godrum and took up residence in a cowherd's house. I used to see her here and there every day, and the more I tried to avoid her, the closer she drew to me. Now she lives in an ashram that she has built here, and she tries to ruin me by coming here late at night. My bad reputation has spread everywhere, and my practice of bhajan has deteriorated solely through my association with her. I am a disgrace to the family with the servants of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I am the only person since the time of Chota Haridas' chastisement who deserves punishment. Because of their compassion, the Babajis of Sri Godrum have not yet chastised me, but they no longer have any faith in me. When Lahiri Mahashaya heard these words, he said, Madhavadas Babaji, please be careful, and returned to his room. Babaji went and sat down on his seat. So of course as a Babaji it is mentioned, or as a sannyasi, one has to be careful in regards to association with women. And so therefore Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, so he's the Supreme Lord, but he came as a devotee. And so he was very exemplary in his behavior in regards towards women. Of course, in his childhood he was also joking. That is there. That is the pastime of the Lord in childhood. And like he was teasing some young girls who were worshipping Lord Shiva. And but that is when he was young, and that was his pastime. And just like children, so when they play together, boys and girls, nobody will say anything. But once they attain the age of puberty, so then it is not proper for boys and girls to be too much together. And therefore the parents, they have to be vigilant and careful and explain to the children proper behavior as much as possible. Of course, we have to see time, place, and circumstances also. Previously, they were very strict, and it was easier. Nowadays, it is more difficult, especially in the cities, and if so, they go to school together. If they are not separated in the school, which may not always be, or even so. And due to the general degradation of the society, then it may not be taken so seriously. So we have to see time, place, and circumstances. And so we have to be practical and not fanatic. But in regards to sannyasis, of course, even there, we have to see that we can follow, or those who are in the renounced order, they should be careful in regards to dealing with women as much as possible. So, but sannyasi, also Mahaprabhu, so that childhood is there and teasing the young girls, but that is, as a child, it was okay. So nothing could be said about that. And after all, he's the Supreme Lord. And he expressed it also. And of course, the pastime. So he expressed, and that by offering everything to him, then he will be satisfied and give all blessings, and that Lord Shiva is his servant, which is true. And so because he was known as a son of a Brahmana, so they also didn't, they were a little afraid that he may curse them, as he was saying, if you give the offering to me, I will bless you, that you will have a handsome husband, and you will have children and will be wealthy. If not, then I will curse you, that you will be only co-wives. So you may get married, but your husband may have more than one wife, and you will not have many children or no children, and not be so wealthy. So they were a little afraid, so they surrendered to him. But then later on, so he was careful in his dealing with women, as was the custom. But then, upon the request of his mother, he entered the Grihastha ashram. And even as a Grihastha, so one has to be careful. And one is dealing with one's wife, but otherwise one should also be restricted as much as possible. But then as he entered the sannyas ashram, he was very strict. And no woman was allowed to come close to him. So they had to offer obeisances from a distance. And practically he was not speaking to women. Even he was, just to set the example, he was not speaking to those who were associated closely with women. Therefore he did not even entertain the king of Puri, who was a great devotee of the Lord, of him, of Jagannath, and he was also understanding Mahaprabhu's position and was ready to surrender to him, but he did not let him come close. Because he was a household and he was dealing with materialistic persons. As a king, that was required. So he was very strict. And he didn't want his followers, especially sannyasis and brahmacharis, to talk too much or at all with women. So one time he was invited to Raghav Pandit's place for lunch, and so Raghav Pandit didn't have enough rice at his home. So he called for Chota Haridas. You get some some rice so I can cook. So because he was a Brahmana, so he was allowed to cook. Otherwise, if somebody wanted to invite Mahaprabhu for lunch, so if they were not from Brahmana family, they were not able to cook for him. That was the custom. But he used to buy the Mahaprasad and then serve Mahaprabhu. But Brahmanas, they were cooking and they were getting some Mahaprasad also, because in Puri everyone likes Mahaprasad. Those who have been in Puri, so they can tell, or they will say that how wonderful is the Mahaprasad of Jagannath Puri. So Chota Haridas was sent there, and to Madhavi's place. So it is mentioned there are 3.5 confidential associates of Mahaprabhu. Sarup Damodar, Rai Ramananda, Sikhi Mahiti and his sister Madhavi. So of course others were there also, Rupa and Sanatan, but because they were elder, so therefore, so they are considered, or they are mentioned as most confidential. And the half person, that was Madhavi. Because, I mean, from the spiritual point of view, Mahaprabhu, and we understand that everyone is equal. We are spirit soul, and we may all be there in Krishna Lila as gopis or gopas, and so from the spiritual point of view, so we are all equal. But in this material world, there's a distinction between man and woman, and that is obvious. We can already see from the body, man's body and woman's body. And according to scriptures, the man has his duty and the woman has her duty. That is there. And and everyone accepts it. Nowadays, very difficult. Now equal rights are there, even Prabhupada's time. And as Prabhupada, he was giving Gayatri mantras to everyone. So he didn't give the Brahma Gayatri because in Indian culture it is never given to women. In Vaishnava culture also. Like Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada in Gaudiya Math, he never gave the Brahma Gayatri to women. So Prabhupada also didn't give, and then the ladies were complaining. Why? Why they have one more? And then Prabhupada was compelled to give them also, because he saw men are like women and women are like men. So fine, no problem. He gave them also. They wanted the thread. So the thread I cannot give. But anyhow, the mantra is more important. And so then they accepted, and they got the Brahma Gayatri. And but even nowadays in Gaudiya Math they will not give. And the Vaishnavas in any sampradaya, they will not give the Brahma Gayatri to any women. So anyhow, not a big issue, but just to say so. So therefore it is explained that Madhavi was half. And even the scientists have actually examined the body, and we can see there's a difference there. And usually men are stronger physically, and they can run faster or whatever. We can see there's some advantage there. And so, and even it is scientifically proven that the brain of the man is bigger than the brain of the woman. But of course, then those who are Brahmanically inclined, so the man, they may be a little superior than the women, but the women who are Brahmanically inclined, they may be superior than the men who are not so Brahmanically inclined. That may be there too. But still, usually, then those who are Brahmanically inclined, the ladies also, they will be humble, and they will understand this point, that I should come not so much in front and do my duty and assisting my husband and help in the household. And if the husband may not be there, then she may do the seva to the deities. That is fine. And she's cooking, but not that she is coming forward and trying to be very prominent. So that is not the case in Vaishnava Vedic culture. So anyhow, so Chotadasi went there, and so he was asking, so she was elderly Vaishnavi. But there was as we know, the elderly are usually served by the younger generation. So, but they're also usually, the elderly Vaishnavas are served by younger Vaishnavas, and the elderly Vaishnavas are served by younger Vaishnavis. So that is common, and that is the tradition, and that is proper. So was young Vaishnavi was there serving or helping Madhavi. And as he was begging for the rice from Madhavi, so he saw this young Vaishnavi, and so he was attracted to her. And so in this way, actually his mind was somewhat polluted. And so he took the rice, and he went back and gave the rice to Raghav Pandit, who cooked the rice and offered to the Lord, and then served Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu was taking prasadam, appreciating all the preparations, the Mahaprasad of Jagannath, and all the sabjis and whatever else he prepared. And then he asked Raghav Pandit, and he told him, very nice rice. Like, we know different kinds of rice are there, basmati rice in northern India. And then you have, in Bengal, Govindabhog, famous short rice, and very sweet and tasty, considered first class. I mean, personally speaking, also we prefer that rice. And in Puri they have Jagannath Bhog, so which is similar to Govindabhog. Assam also they have this kind of rice, very tasty. But even different places, other places, they have good quality rice. And so that rice was first class, and so he appreciated the rice. And then he asked, where from is this rice? And then Raghav Pandit said, I sent Chota Haridas to take it from Madhavi. And I said, oh, okay. And he continued eating. And when he finished eating, he told Raghav Pandit, I do not want to see Chota Haridas anymore. And Raghav Pandit was surprised. And he said, a sannyasi should be very careful in his dealings, or those in the renounced order should be very careful in their dealings with women. So different kinds of, that is mentioned in scriptures also. Of sex life is there. Of course, legitimate is with the wife, but otherwise should be no contact with any women. And so it is mentioned. So physically is there, of course, with one wife at a proper time, according to Shastras, with the blessings of the elders, at an auspicious time. But then, so improper behavior in this regard, it is mentioned in the Shastras 8 kinds. So thinking in a lustful way in regards to women, or speaking lustfully, looking lustfully, speaking too much in regards to women, and not proper. So touching a woman, so if it is not one's wife, so that is all improper. So that was his fault. He was looking lustfully. So this way he was, in a subtle way, breaking the principle of sannyas in regards to dealing with women. Of course, to be very strict sannyasi in the age of Kali is very difficult. Therefore, it is forbidden also, in general, to accept sannyas in the age of Kali, because it is very difficult to control the mind and the senses. In the age of Kali especially. And the environment, so Kali Yuga so because of the mode of ignorance which is becoming more and more prominent in the age of Kali, therefore the environment is not sattvic, or it's more rare to find a sattvic place. And so generally human beings are overcome by the mode of passion and ignorance in the age of Kali. So in this way, so he was chastised, and Mahaprabhu, just to set the example, so he ostracized him from Vaishnava society. Of course, he just said that he doesn't want to see him anymore, but then, of course, the devotees, they were devastated because they had a friendly relationship with him also. And because they knew that it is not easy to do that, so they themselves, many of them, they felt ashamed. So one time Mahaprabhu, so anyhow, so then, in this regard, Mahaprabhu one time, that is mentioned in Chaitanya Bhagavat, in Navadvip, as a householder, with his associates there, so he was doing one drama. And he took the role of Lakshmi Devi. And then, so that at one point he was saying, who is allowed to see this drama? He wanted only devotees, and he was saying those who have control over their mind and senses. They're allowed. And then it is mentioned that Vaitacharya and Srinivas, because they were householders, they were crying. Because in the household it may be difficult. Surrounded by women also. And then so they were crying, then we are not allowed to go and see that drama. But of course, Mahaprabhu then encouraged them also. And they finally also watched the drama. But, so that was the position many of the devotees were thinking, and they were very much embarrassed. Because it is not easy to control the mind and senses for anyone. Even one may have entered the sannyasa ashram, and we have seen practically that Mahaprabhu's time, but afterwards also, before also, if you read the Bhagavatam, so Vishwamitra Muni had some difficulty. You can read in the Bhagavatam, in the scriptures, how great personalities, Lord Indra, so much difficulty in controlling, and the sex urge. So to speak, in the age of Kali. And then also Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, some disciples, and they also left sannyas, but not many. But then in ISKCON, in our society, but then even after Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, the disciples of the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, many casualties are there. So, and also in ISKCON we have seen. So, but at least one has to be very careful, otherwise that will create some disturbance in society. Or as shown here, Madhav Babaji, so he admitted his fault. So due to some weakness, although it was his wife only, but he had entered the Babaji ashram. But then his wife still tried to be close to him. And then he talked to her also, due to weakness of heart, which he should not have done. But out of compassion, but he should not have done that. And so therefore the women also has to be taken care of before one takes sannyas or enters the Babaji ashram, so that she's protected and that she's satisfied, that she's taken care of. So that has to be seen. So otherwise something like this may happen. So even some other instances are there of some Vaishnavas. So we have also heard, and Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada's disciple, one of the disciples was also sannyasi, but then still he was talking sometimes to his wife. And then others, they were complaining, of course. So that should be avoided. So these are small things which one has to know and one has to follow, especially as a sannyasi or Babaji. So due to weakness he succumbed to that, and therefore the other Babajis, they didn't chastise him because he was also Babaji, but they kept some distance from him. And so then that affected his bhajan, because he realized his mistake and he became affected by that. And thinking about his wife from previous ashram. And then he was affected because he understood the others, they didn't approve of that. It was not acceptable, it was not proper. So one has to be careful in this regard. So spiritual life is a razor's edge. And one has to be always careful and follow sadachar, proper behavior, according to Varna ashram also. The different duties are there for the different Varnas, different ashrams, and one has to follow one's Varna and one's ashram and follow the rules and regulations thereof. That is important, that has to be done. So that is the situation here. So therefore Lahiri Mahashai was from a Brahmana family, and so he knew also rules and regulations, and now he had come here to surrender also to the Vaishnavas. So he cautioned him to be careful also. So Lahiri Mahashai could not sleep. Again and again he thought, Madhav Das Babaji has fallen down by entering householder life again, after he has formally renounced it. It is not appropriate for me to stay here any longer. So he had, of course, he was still staying alone at his place, at his ashram, but he allowed his former wife to come and speak to him, and he entertained her, which was not right. Even if it does not lead me into a bad association, it will certainly spoil my reputation, so that the pure Vaishnavas will no longer instruct me with confidence. So association is very important. So here, Lahiri Mahashai understood that the other Vaishnavas are talking about this Babaji and his improper behavior, so then they may think that, oh, this Lahiri Mahashai, he's staying with his Madhav Das, so maybe he's also not following strictly the rules and regulations of a Vaishnav. So he was careful and he was understanding the situation, and therefore he decided to leave that place. So we have to be careful, and we have to see always time, place and circumstance, and then we have to adjust, and using one's intelligence and praying to Hari Guru Vaishnav to help us, to protect us, to guide us, so we may be able to remain properly situated, and we may be able to overcome all the difficulties which are always coming in one's life. So there's a razor's edge, and we have to be careful. And then if sometimes something is happening and it is, and we are put in a difficult situation, then we have to rectify. And we have to take shelter of the Vaishnavas who are more advanced. So he left the place. Early the next morning he went to Pradumna Kunj, greeted Sri Vaishnavadas with due respect and asked for a place to stay in the Kunj. When Vaishnavadas informed Paramahamsa Babaji Mahasaya with his news, Babaji gave instructions that he should be given a place to stay in a kutir on one side of the Kunj. From then on, Lahiri Mahasaya lived in that kutir and arranged to obtain prasad at the house of a Brahmana who lived nearby. So, Lahiri Mahasaya, he was fortunate to be able to stay very near to Vaishnavadas and Paramahamsa Babaji Maharaj. And so here also Vaishnavadas, although Lahiri Mahasaya, so he approached Vaishnavadas, and then Vaishnavadas did not immediately, of course, took in that he decided. No, but he asked his Guru Maharaj, Paramahamsa Babaji Maharaj. And then Babaji Maharaj, because he was actually the caretaker of this place. It was his place, Pradumna Kunj. So here Vaishnava etiquette is very nicely explained here. So actually in this wonderful book we can learn so much from the, of course, philosophical point of view here, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining about Jaiva Dharma, Nitya Dharma and Naimitika Dharma. But then we can see then so many other topics are coming, of course, which are related, all of them, but especially regards to Vaishnava behavior and how to deal with other Vaishnavas. So very instructive, very wonderful book, and so it is a masterpiece by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And by following this book, then we can actually advance nicely in the path of devotional life. And of course, slowly but surely, we can advance here. Of course, if we see here in these pages, because we should understand that we must have performed devotional service already in previous lives also. And most of these personalities which are described here. And therefore very quickly when they come here to Mayapur, like Sannyasi Thakur, so due to his previous impressions, Purva Samskar, so he was attracted to spiritual life and he was studying the Vedic literatures. Although with the Mayavadis also, and he entered Sannyas Ashram of the Mayavadi sect. But then, by good fortune, he met some Vaishnavas, and then he was very quickly attracted to the Vaishnavas, and he surrendered. And he gave up his Ekadanda, Mayavadi sannyas dress, and very quickly he advanced. Here we can see him. Similarly, this Lahiri Mahasaya also. So of course also from a Brahmana family and a singer, but in the beginning not under the guidance of a pure Vaishnava, so therefore he had some misconception. But then meeting the Vaishnavas, all the misconceptions, they were resolved. So we can see from previous, those who quickly take up devotional service, that means in the previous life they had already some contact with Vaishnavas, and so therefore they can more easily advance. So, whatever, so personally speaking, so whatever our position may be, so we should try to advance more and more, especially by associating with devotees who are more advanced. Then it will be more easy to advance in our spiritual life, and then we are protected. And because in this world, and we can see practically speaking also, in this world, or even amongst Vaishnav Samaj, the society of Vaishnavas, even amongst the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, so there may be so many branches may be there, and if one is not strong in spiritual understanding, if one is not under proper guidance, then one may be deviated. So one has to be careful. But so we are actually very fortunate to be in the Gaudiya Vaishnav Sampradaya, and the Mahaprabhu and the Rupa Goswami were known as Rupanuga Vaishnavas, followers of Rupa Goswami, as Sadhaka, and then internally followers of Rupa Manjari. And then of course there are different also Vaishnavas who are followers of Rupa, some may be followers of Raghunath, some, and we also accept Raghunath as Goswami, some may be followers of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, like in Radharaman temple, some may be followers of Jiva Goswami, like Anantadas, like Haridas Shastri was there in Vrindavan, and others may be there. In whole humility we may say that, and it is explained also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, or accepted by most of the Vaishnavas, that Rupa Goswami is Sit Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. He is the most dear associate of Mahaprabhu. Of course, all the associates of Mahaprabhu are dear to Mahaprabhu, but Rupa Goswami takes a special position, and he was very much empowered to establish the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that is specifically to not only establish the Yugadharma, the chanting of the holy names, but to establish Braj Bhakti, and especially Unad Ujjala Ras, the Madhurya Ras. So therefore we are known as followers of Rupa Goswami. And there in Krishna Lila is Rupa Manjari, very most dear friend of Srimati Radharani. Of those who are younger, of course, the Ashtasakis are there, very dear friends of Radharani. But Rupa is a little younger than the Sakis, and therefore, so she's there in the mood of serving the divine couple, and specifically Srimati Radharani. And so very dear to Srimati Radharani also. So we are very fortunate to be in that line. Under Bhaktivinoda Thakur, under Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada and our Prabhupada, or so specifically. But Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, he had a few wonderful disciples, but of course Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada was empowered to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, and he established ISKCON Society, which has done so much preaching all over the world and is still doing. But then some other disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta, they were also preaching nicely, and they established temples, and in India there are mats, and even now also still preaching abroad also. So we should respect all of them, and we should feel ourselves very fortunate to be in that line. And we should be very humble, tolerant, and respectful, and appreciate our good fortune, and appreciate others also. So we appreciate all Vaishnavas, all Gaudiya Vaishnavas, but even other Vaishnavas from the other Vaishnava Sampradaya, we respect them. But we feel ourselves fortunate to be under Rupa Goswami. So we should try our best to make more advancement, to learn more, but not only theoretically, but then also to try to practically advance. And Gyan is there and Vigyan. So the knowledge is there and we apply in our life, and then we'll get realization, practical realization about our spiritual existence, about what is the essence. We should be Saragraha Vaishnav, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining in Navadip Dham Mahatmya. Two kinds of Vaishnav. Saragrahi Vaishnav. Sara means the essence, Grahi accepting the essence. So we should accept the essence of the teachings of Mahaprabhu, of the teachings of Rupa Goswami, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Other kind of Vaishnav, Bharidhara Vaishnav. So what is heavy, he's holding that. So just like a donkey is holding a lot of cloth of the washerman. So very difficult thing. Sometimes all because of course nowadays they don't have donkey, they have a bike. They take the cloth with the bike. You can see. Previously they had the donkey. So that refers to some Vaishnavas who are more attracted to the externals. Name, fame, glory, the same old story. They want to be appreciated. And they want some opulence. They want a position. But that is a kind of burden. And a heavy burden actually, if we have this ego of being something special. So that has to be given up. We should not be after that, to be famous, or to be able to have. External things, but we should be interested in the essence and be internal devotee, humble, tolerant, respectful. Of course, at the same time, we may sometimes be in a leading position also. Have a position and then help others also. But that should be done in humility and always depending on Sri Guru and Gauranga and accepting it as the mercy of the Lord. And give the credit to the Lord, to the Guru, like Prabhupada said, if I had any good qualification, and he was many times saying it is all by the mercy of my Guru Maharaj that I have been successful. So that is the attitude of the sincere disciple. It is the mercy of my Guru that I am able to do something. But if things are not working out nicely, then he will take the responsibility. And then he will not say, oh, because my Guru Maharaj, he told me so. It didn't work out. No, he will take the responsibility because I'm fool, it doesn't work out. But if he's successful, then he will give the glory to his Guru Maharaj because he understands it is his mercy. So that is a Vaishnava. So we should try to be true Vaishnava. So, Sadguru and Sadshishya, Saragrahi Vaishnava. So we should try to be like this. And then we can slowly but surely advance in our spiritual life. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So hopefully next Thursday we will have the class in Vrindavan Dham. Hare Krishna.